So now that we have all of the pieces created, now we can start assembling. So you're going to need a tapestry needle, and we're going to start with the belly. So you're just going to use the tan colored yarn that you used for the belly in order to assemble it. So just insert it with your tapestry needle. Obviously do that a little more carefully than I just did. As I mentioned in a previous video, if I can avoid using tapestry needles at any cost, I will. And you're going to see why in this tutorial. So if you're one of those people who likes to use pins to pin it, then go for it. I kind of just like to eyeball it because having a bunch of pins can get a little complicated for me. But you're just going to take your Mort doll and just pick a side. They're both the same, so it doesn't matter. And I like to align the part with the tail, let me tighten that just to be sure, towards the right, because I'm going to assemble it like this, and with this tail I can tie the end as I'm going to show you, just to add a little bit more security. So you're just going to insert your tapestry needle in the body and into the last stitch of this row, and pull your yarn. Be sure to have a good length of yarn. And I'm just going to tie it here and triple knot it just for added security. And so now you're just going to assemble this by going back and forth from here. So now we're going to go from the top and just stick it in. I find that the easiest way to do this is just to stick it into the body and out of a random hole. It doesn't really matter what hole you're going to go into, because then you can just go back into the exact same hole, go underneath the body, or go through the body and then underneath the belly. And as you'll see in a second, once I pull this through, it'll be seamless. So instead of trying to maneuver your hook in and out of here in just this area, use the rest of the body to your advantage. Go a stitch or two out and then go back into it to make it easier for yourself. So as I show here, I'm just going to go back into here and maneuver it down here, through, pull. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I've attached the belly all the way around, and I'll meet you back. So I've reached the end here. I'm not going to snip the yarn, and the reason I told you to use a longer piece is because we're going to now go straight into attaching the face. So I like to have the end of this, so the corner will be here. I like to have this piece here so that when we tie it off, we'll basically have a similar situation here where we can just knot it. And yeah, okay. So to start, you're just going to insert your darning needle just into the body. And be sure that this is positioned in the center. Again, if you want to use pins, go for it. Since it's a relatively small piece, I just like to hold it and readjust as I go. So make sure that this is relatively in the center of the body. Insert your needle through the body and bring it up at the corner of the face. And as you'll see here, now that's attached. And you're just going to do the exact same thing around here that you did around here. So you're just going to insert over and into the body and just push it out at a random spot. Go back into that random spot to go under the body and back through the face. And you're just going to repeat this until you've gone all the way around the face. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll meet you when I'm done. Alright, so I reached the end, and it looks kind of a mess. You can see that there are a lot of tails. So this is the yarn that I was using to sew it in. So I'm just going to snip it off and then tie it to the end of the face, as we see here. And now what you're going to do is you're going to weave in all of these little ends so that they don't really get in the way or confuse you when you're assembling the rest of the doll. So I just take a smaller hook, say 3.5. So whatever hook you ended up using to make the doll, use a smaller hook to pull these in. So you'll know that a smaller hook will reach inside of the stitches easier. So everybody has their own way of weaving in. I just pull my tails in. If you're pulling them in like me, I recommend inserting it through a generously far away stitch and then putting your hook up so that the stitch gets hidden with this color, because if you, let's say, pulled it in here, you're going to see a line there. So we're trying to make this look as seamless as possible. Yeah. So just find a good spot inside. This one clearly is not a good spot. It's a bit tight. Let's try this one. There we go, perfect. So I'm just going to weave in the rest of my ends and I'll meet you back when I'm done. Alright, so I finished sewing in the ends and I'm just going to set this aside for a moment while we assemble the eyes. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be attaching the black to the yellow, and then when these are connected, then we're going to attach it to the face. So there's nothing too hard about this step. You're just going to take your normal darning needle, thread it. Let me set this aside, make it easier. And you're just going to go in from the back and insert the needle up. I always like to knot just to secure, so you could just take one of the black pieces and knot it. Anything to ensure that it doesn't go away always helps me. Okay. And now you're just going to thread back and forth. So you went down, you're going to go back up. I know it's really hard to see on camera, especially because it's black yarn. But basically, I went up because remember the eye had 4 stitches. Again, really hard to see on camera. But you're basically going to be going up through the first one, down through the second one, up through the third one, and then back down through the fourth one. And then, back in frame, you're just going to snip it. And again, I really like knowing that things are secure, so I'm just going to knot it with the other black end. And then now you have a completed eye. So just do this again for the other eye, and then I'll meet you back. Okay, so once both eyes are complete, now we're going to attach it using the yellow yarn. So just attach your yellow yarn into your needle. Both eyes are the same, so you can start with the left or the right side, it doesn't matter. And just ensure that these loose ends are towards the bottom. And what you're going to do is there's a flat edge to the eye, and there's a little flat edge to the face. So you're just going to slide it there and just, let me move this up slightly just so you can see. So the flat end is just going to align with the flat end of this. Just make sure that your ends are hanging down to make this easy. I picked a relatively long piece. Okay. So I'm going to actually begin with this eye over here, just because I always like going right to left since that's how I crochet. Okay, so I'm just going to insert directly underneath, because this part doesn't have this side doesn't have a tail. As you see, the tail ended on this side, so I can't do the trick that far away. So I'm just going as close to underneath as possible. Again, I chose a really long piece for this because I'm going to sew this eye. So I'm going to attach this eye, and then I'm going to go right through the head to attach the other one. So one thing about me is I always overshoot how much I have or how much I need, because the worst part about sewing anything is not having enough and then having to try and reattach yarn. Okay, so once the yarn is secure, you're just going to go into the head. Now with this part, it wasn't that important which stitch you went into, because these were rows. But with these rounds, you can see that there are very pronounced stitches. So although you don't have to, if you want it to look neat, use these to your advantage. So I attached the yarn directly below this, meaning that when I'm going to, camera shaking. Okay, when I'm going to go back down, I'm going to put it in underneath these, directly down into the head. And then that's when I take a random spot. So directly, move this down, directly down into the head. I just pick a random spot to push it out of, like we were doing with down here. And then I can pull my yarn through. Oh my goodness. And then I can pull my yarn through. Be sure not to get any of your tail ends caught. As I said before, try and keep them down. So that I can go back into the head, back underneath, and then I'm going to, so I inserted it down into this stitch. I'm going to go up through this stitch. So directly below it, and then through the stitch. So let me show that again. I go back into that random spot, go directly under where the eye is supposed to be, and I, as you can see my needle, I'm going into the second stitch. And then I can pull my yarn through. And then you're just going to repeat that. So in the next stitch, you're going to go down. This one goes up, down, down. And so I'm going to attach the eye, and then I'll meet you when I am done. Okay, so I've reached the end of the eye where my last one is to go down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and just hold that there. And then I'm going to readjust or just adjust this eye. So the same way that we adjusted this one to be parallel, to have the flat parts parallel, we're going to do the exact same thing here. So I'm just going to put it down so that I can pull it through. Oh, poor Mort. So I can push it through his head and up this first stitch. So the same way that this one was, we inserted our hook that way, you're just going to insert it straight through the head. Now, if you wanted to just attach this eye separately and then attach this eye separately, that's fine. But I find that when I do it with a longer tail, this is definitely not going to go anywhere because it's attached to this eye, and this eye is not going to go anywhere because it's attached to this eye. So I just find that in the long run, it might be a little more secure. Okay, and then you're just going to do the exact same thing. So we went up in this stitch, so you're just going to go down straight down in this stitch. Pick a random spot, push it out, and pull your yarn through. Once again, ensuring that none of these loose ends get caught in there. So you're just going to do the exact same thing here, going up, down in alternating stitches until you reach the end here. So I'm going to do that and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I reached the end where my last stitch is to go down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down, go through a random spot, pull my yarn just as I've been doing. And that's the last stitch that goes like this. But what we're going to do is we're going to, again, make sure that your tails are out of the way. Go back in, and we're going to secure this little gap. So you see right here, this is the end of this round, or this row, I should say. But there's this little tiny gap between the black part and the yellow part. So we're just going to go back and we're going to secure that in like normal. Again, I choose longer yarn just so that it is secured into the head and it's not flapping around too much. And then you can just go back into the stitch that you went down in and then make your way, so push it through to attach the same part here. So the same part where there's this small gap, you'd also just be pushing it, pushing the needle through to reach that end, and then back. I'm sorry, the camera cut off. Okay, so basically what we did is we ended here, so the needle went up through here, and we just inserted it back here and through the head back to this eye to go into the gap on this side. So that's what I'm doing now. Again, apologies for the camera malfunction. Technical difficulties can happen to anybody. So again, you're just going to go into a random spot and then meet the, or put your needle through the gap on this side. Again, mind your tails, be careful not to pull them with your yarn. And that's it. So the eyes are connected. You can snip your yarn. And as always, I like to secure, so I just take one of the random tails and I form a tiny knot. Okay. He looks a little distraught. No worries. That's what weaving inner ends are for. So you're going to weave your ends. If you noticed, I didn't tell you to secure this section, and that's because that's where we're going to weave our tails. So we're going to attempt to put all of our tails down here. They're going to get pulled straight into the head, and that will hold this tiny gap where the black is. So I'm just going to weave in my ends, and then I'll meet you back. All right, so I weaved in the ends. Now his eyes are complete. So next we're going to work on attaching the mouth. So you're just going to attach your pink yarn to your needle. And ensure that the right side of your work is showing. So you'll know that it's the right side of your work when the tail at the corner is towards the right. And you're just going to position it. If you can see this line here, here's the bottom of the face and here's the top of the belly. You're just going to position it so it is at the bottom, or at the line where they meet. So at the bottom of the face, at the top of the belly. So you're just going to do as we've always been doing. Insert it. Don't insert it through the entire body. It's okay right here because the face is technically only connected at the side, so in the middle it will lift up. Just attach it through the face into the stitch. here we have, we lifted it up through. Me liking everything secure, I'm just going to knot it. So remember, this one has 4 stitches, so it has 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you went up 1, we're going to go down 2, straight down, and this you can also just pick a random stitch. Some people are really gifted at just going from one stitch to the next. I am not one of those people. And even if this takes a bit longer, it is how I know it will be neat. Go back into that random stitch, find the 3rd stitch, which you will go up in, up, and then we're going to go back down into the last stitch. Just going to insert it in again into a random stitch. And now the mouth is secure. So what we're going to do is go back in, and we're going to, the same way we tried to secure the gaps here, we're going to do the same with this gap and this gap, even though they're much smaller and closer together. So what we're going to do is go into one side, up, and then we're going to go across, down. So we're going to pretend like this is a stitch and this is a stitch, and because the mouth is so small anyways, this line over it won't be too noticeable. And you can attach it relatively close to where we first attached. So now the mouth is completely secure. You snip your yarn. I like to tie very close. And now you can weave in your ends. So I'm going to weave in the ends and I'll meet you back. So my ends are now weaved in. And before we add the parts that make the doll 3D, so the arms, the ears, the tail, I want to embroider the details on him, just so that's already done. And when we do embroider the details, the 3D parts won't get in the way. This isn't going to be a real issue if you wanted to attach the pieces first, but for me, I just feel like it's a lot easier to get all the flat pieces out of the way than it is to make it 3D and then try to maneuver around the pieces that are sticking out. So we're going to start with white yarn, and right now we're going to embroider his tooth. So the way we're going to make his tooth is going to be very similar to how we're going to make his nose. So you're just going to attach your yarn, your white yarn, and then you're going to find a spot in the mouth. It's okay if it's a tiny bit tight, it doesn't matter too much. And you're just going to pull it through pretty much to the end, and then you're just going to go all the way back into that same spot where we attached and push your needle out through the spot that we just came out of to make a small white loop. Now remember, this is going to be done at the top of the mouth, and then you're just going to do that one more time. With the mouth, it's going to be a little bit tighter than with the nose, but only because it's such a small spot. You can do it a third time. I'm going to do it a third time just because the yarn that I'm using. But if you find that his tooth is a little or too thick already, that's totally fine. So now you can snip your yarn off. If you want to, you can knot. I'm going to knot, but I'm going to knot off to the side so that the knot isn't in the middle of the tooth. And then you can just weave in the tails. So the ends are weaved in, and now we're going to make the nose pretty much the exact same way, but with a little extra step. So if you wanted to have a bit of a longer piece, I recommend it. So just attach your black yarn. And for the nose, you're just going to go directly above the mouth. Pick a spot. And then go through it. Again, this shouldn't be going through the entire head. It could just be going through the thin layer of the tan face. So you're just going to, oh, there's a hair. My apologies. So you're just going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to go back into where you inserted it and out where you just pulled it out. And go over it a few times. So 2 to 3 times. Two. I'm going to go over it the third time. Here's his little nose. But you're not going to tie it off just yet, because now what we're going to do is go back in and push it out through the head, and this time it's going to be towards a specific direction. We're going to be making the eyebrows. So basically find one row above the yellow. So here we have the end of the yellow, and then here's one row, and here's the second row. You're going to go in between the first and the second row, pretty much a stitch away from the face. So I'll show you where that is. Right here. One second, I'll show you what I'm doing. So again, here's row 1 above, and here's row 2, and I'm in between. And here is one stitch from here to here. And then you're going to go count. So here's 1, I'm going to count 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th one you're going to insert your needle, and you're going to find the spot on the opposite side of the face where it's also one stitch apart and in between rows 1 and 2. So here we go. Just going to pull it. Do not pull it too tight. We just want a thin line. Don't leave it so loose that if it gets tugged, it can stay like that. You know, we don't want something super loose. Just loose enough where it's not pulling the head or cinching the head in, but not, so yeah. I don't know what I was getting at. I lost my train of thought. So yeah, so here's row 1 above, and here's row 2 above. You're in between that, and you're 1 stitch. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And for this, you can just insert it into a random spot. We're going to be going back towards the nose in a second. So then, yep, ensure that your eyebrows are where you want them to be. And then you're going to basically maneuver it so that it makes its way back to exactly where you started. So it's a bit of a long journey where I chose, so I'm just going from one random spot to the next. And then I'm going back where I started, snipping the yarn, knotting it to secure it. Just give myself a heart attack. I thought I pulled the eyebrow. Okay. Knotting it. And then now the nose and eyebrows are complete. So you can just weave in your ends. So I'm going to do that and I'll meet you back. Okay, so the end has been weaved in, and now we're going to start attaching the 3D parts, and we're going to work from the top down. So we're going to start with our light brown yarn, the color that we've been using for the majority of the body, and we're going to start attaching the ears. So just remember that the ears were the shortest of the two. I had marked mine when I made it just to make it easier for retrieval. So I'm just going to take those stitch markers out. So now with the ears, what you're going to do is you're going to bend them in half at the end and pinch it. Now what I find is easiest for me is attaching them once they're already pinched. So you can pinch them as you're attaching it to the head, but I feel like when they're already pinched, it makes it a lot easier. So you're just going to go, you inserted it through once, insert it through back, remember just at the end. And once again, I like to knot what I make. And this knot will definitely ensure that the pinch will remain intact. That's not the detail, it is here. Definitely keep in mind what is a tail and what is your working yarn. And make sure to never get those two mixed up. Okay. So now the shape of it should be more like an eye drop or a teardrop, I should say, than a straight tube, which is what we want. So I'm just going to attach it to the head. So what you're going to do is you're just going to find the center of the head. So here is the head. Just find the center. It should be slightly above the eyes, or I should say it aligns with the top of the eyes. And you're just going, let me adjust this so you can see where the end is. My bad, I'm sorry. You're just going to make sure that the pinched part is facing towards the front of the doll. Again, make sure not to have your tails in the way. So you're just going to attach it straight into the head. So go into the ear and straight down into the head. Pick a random spot relatively close by and pull out. It's okay to reposition your doll anytime you do this. You're just going to go back in, and there's no real way to do it. I just like to go 4 or 5 times back and forth between the ear and the head. So right here we're at 2. And then back in, ensuring that the pinched part is at the front. Yep. Back in. Relatively close by. Here we have 3. Going back in. 4. And 5. So this 5th one, I'm going to go into the head. Make sure to position it where you can see. That'd be helpful. And I'm just going to go through his head. So if by chance your twisted part gets, or your pinched part gets twisted, that's okay, because any part can really be the pinched part. It's just a matter of how you shape it. So you're just going to bend it in half so that it looks pinched right here. Okay. And then you're going to go and insert your needle through the head at around the same place that you're going to want to insert your other ear, or to attach your other ear, I should say. So just like this, I'm actually going to tuck this tail in. It'll just make life easier for me. Same deal. pinch the bottom. While it's up here. And before you go back in through the head, the pinching process still needs to be done again. So just keep pinching it. Pinching the bottom and going through it. So instead of going from the ear to the head, you're going from one side of the ear to the other side of the ear at the very beginning of when you attach this. So I'm going to do this one more time, just to ensure it. Pinch and push my needle through the pinched part. It is a bit tight, so your needle may be, okay, that one went a bit up. Okay, here we go. And now it is pinched at the bottom, as you can see. And now we're going to do the same thing. Just go back and forth in between the head until it is connected. So I'm going to do that and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I've attached the ear and I'm just going to shape it. So just push, just pinch in half. And here's the top view. So they're pretty much at the same angle. And now at this point you have two options. You can either try and cut this yarn and attach it here, or as I do, like I said with the eye, I find that I feel safer and more secure with my projects if each of the pieces are connected to each other. So this isn't just connected to the head, this is connected to this side is connected to this side. I know they're not going to come off. And that's how I feel about these 3D parts. So the reason why I have a really long piece of yarn, other than that's just how I typically do things, I can go back into the body, and now I'm going to go to where the arms are supposed to be. And now I know that this ear will be connected to this ear is connected to this ear, and both of the ears are going to be connected to the arm. So if you don't want to have a giant long piece that you're going to have to be going back and forth through the body with, if you want to have a small piece for this, 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 or if you're one of those people who just leave a really long tail per piece and use that to weave it in, that is perfectly okay. This is just how I do it. This is how I feel secure in my pieces. I've had like I said before, embroidery is not really my thing, so many times in the past I've had amigurumi that gets torn or pieces fall off, but ever since I started this new method, I find that pieces just aren't falling off. So this is just what I'm going to do. So next we're just going to attach the arms. So with the arms, this part is going to be optional. You can lightly, and I stress lightly, stuff the arms if you wanted them to be more plump. However, I, for one, am not really concerned with that. I don't really want to stuff these. And the great thing about this is, even though, you know, this is a pattern, it's a tutorial, you can really do whatever you want. So if you're seeing me do something and you're like, I want to do it different, or I think this would actually look better, go for it 100%. I encourage that people take crochet patterns and projects that they see and that they tweak it a bit, you know, to their liking. Because that's really what crochet is, you know, it's just putting your own style to something with finite rules and patterns. So now we're going to attach the yarn. So I'm just going to attach it into one of the stitches of the last round and just pull it tightly to the body. And now I know that this ended with a set amount of stitches. So just like with the eyes, I'm going to be going up. So like how we went up one, down one, up one, down one. We're going to do the exact same thing with the arms. So we just went up one, and we're going to find the very next stitch. So here we went up the stitch. Here's the next one. We're going to go down. So insert it down straight into the body. and pull through. Ensure not to be like me, almost creating a knot. And then we're going to go and find the next available stitch. Oh, little tiny thread. That happens with acrylic yarn. So we went down this one. Here's the next available, so we're going to go up this one. So find the spot, go up. And you're just going to keep doing that until you reach the end of the arm. So I'm going to do that and I'll meet you back. Alright, so I've just finished attaching the arm in all of the stitches. And I'm going to move this tail slightly over. And I'm just going to go through the entire body. So it might be a tiny bit hard if you have a smaller needle just to go through the whole body. So you can always just insert it through a random stitch. Oh, hold on. I pulled the tail, that's why it got caught. Okay, so pull it through a random stitch. And then you can always just insert it back and then try and find the spot on the body where you'd want the next part to go. So my needle didn't go straight through, it went here and then through here to there. And now it's at the spot where the next arm goes. So we're just going to do the exact same thing with the arm that we just did with the other arm. So we're just going to attach it up through one of the last stitches of the round. Secure it. And then go up and down through each of the stitches of the arm until you have the whole arm attached. So I'm just going to attach this second arm and then I'll meet you back. Perfect. So I've attached the last arm. I should say the second arm. There's only two arms. So the last part that we're going to be attaching body-wise is going to be the tail. So same thing as you've been doing. Just insert your hook through the, insert your needle. I'm so used to saying insert your hook. Insert your needle through the body to a random area on the back of the doll. Be sure that it's not too low, so it helps to kind of lay your doll flat. And we're going to be attaching the tail now. So find a good spot where you want the bottom of the tail to be. So let me try and position this so you can see. So I want the bottom of the tail to be around here. So position your yarn where you want the bottom of the tail to be. So once you have it, just insert your hook up. Again, I said hook. Insert your needle up through it, and you're going to do the exact same thing you did with the arms. So you're just going to go up and down every single one of these stitches all the way around until the tail is attached. So I'm going to do that and meet you back. All right, so I've attached the tail, and now this is the final part of the body. Whoa. Wanted to say hi to the camera. This is the final part of the body that needs this yarn. So fasten off however you want. I'm going to go back through the body all the way up. Oh, drop the needle. All the way up to where I first attached the first ear so that I can, as you may guess, tie a knot. So just gonna go through the whole body, up through the body, go to that spot, cut my yarn, and then I'm going to tie a small knot just to secure the whole entire yarn. So now this ear is connected to this ear, which is connected to this arm, which is connected to this arm, which is connected to the tail. So this method, I know nothing is going to fall apart because everything is connected. So now that everything is connected, I'm just going to weave the tails and I'll meet you back. So the last part we're going to be attaching with a needle is going to be the feet pads. So you're just going to use brown yarn, and this may be hard to see on camera, but I will try my best to explain it. So just like normal, attach your yarn to your needle. And basically we have these three, it looks like a 3-leaf clover basically. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So you're basically just going to position it so that they face outwards. So here's your Mort doll, just the feet, they're facing kind of out. You want to make sure that they're facing at an angle so that the middle one is facing towards this side. I'm trying to see how best to explain this. They can be facing forward towards you with the doll. So just put it like that and then just tilt it just a little bit. And once you have it positioned correctly, you're just going to push your needle through and into the leg. Now remember, the leg is pointed. So you're going to want the center of this to align with the point. Put it here so I can, it's easier to see, with the point of the leg. So best way to do this is to just insert your needle through the very tight center and straight into the point of the leg. Doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, this was a tight hole when we made it, so just insert it into there and just pull it, push it back out. Pull your yarn through. If you're like me, knot it to secure it. If you're not like me, don't worry about it. Okay. So just secure the angle. Very hard to do with a camera. There. Anyways. So once it's secured through, you're just going to, as you see, it's coming out of the leg. So you're just going to go back into the leg, into the point, and just go back into the center. Another hair. Just back into the center of the foot pad. Don't be like me, getting your yarn tangled. Do be careful. Also, don't shake your camera. It's been a long day, but it's okay. We're here to have fun. And just do that a couple of times until you feel it's secure. So like for now, you feel like it's kind of, you see how it's just spinning around on its own. That's not what we want. So once you've gone back and forth through the center, you can then have, once you have the angle secure, you can then go into the humps of the foot pad. I don't know how to describe this shape, the arch of the foot pad. You can go into it and just push through into the foot. But do try to get it as close to the tip as possible. So don't try and do it over here or something. Do try and get it as close to the tip of the foot as possible, or the leg, I should say. And when you have it in the leg, just try to get it back through the center of the foot pad, or as close to the center as possible. And then you can go into the other arch and repeat. So just insert it through the arch. and into the foot. I'm not quite sure how well this is registering on camera, so if you're watching this part and you're like, where the heck is she inserting it? Just leave a comment. I will try my best to help out. And then once more, push it through the center of the foot pad. And now we see it is more secure. See how when I move it, the whole leg moves? So this is not just spinning around like a disc. I'm not going to go through the whole body to secure one foot pad to the other bit. I'm just going to cut it off because it's okay. It's okay. But I am going to knot it because it's just what I do. And that is one foot pad. So you're just going to repeat that same process here, but remember that the angle is supposed to be facing outwards like this. So as opposed to facing forward like this, just tilt it to the side. So I'm going to attach this and I'll meet you back. So now the Mort doll is pretty much complete. The only thing that's left is to do the hands, but the hands aren't going to be done like the feet pads where it was an individual piece that you assembled on later. We're going to be crocheting it exactly onto the hand. So I'm going to show you how to do this. This part will be done with the dark brown yarn, the same color that we used for the feet pads, but for the tutorial I'm going to be making it with a light color so that you can see it, so that it registers on camera. So yeah, let's begin. So for this part, you're going to be using the smaller hook, the 3.5 millimeter, and you're going to attach your yarn just as you've been doing. So I'm going to make my slip knot. You're going to attach your yarn. As you can see in the tip, there's this loop here. You're going to attach it off to the side. So here's off to the side, here's a loop, and then there's another off to the side. So you're just going to insert it to a stitch off to the side. So now it's inserted, and you're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to slip stitch into the 4th chain from the hook. So here's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Insert it into the 4th chain, and you're just going to do a slip stitch. And here we have 1 finger. So next, as I said, this was off to the side, so just position the hand so it's facing towards you. You're going to go through the entire tip. So insert your hook. It might be a bit of a tight squeeze, but that is okay. Just going to go straight through. There we go. Perfect. Yarn over and pull through to make a slip knot, or a slip stitch, I should say. And you're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to slip stitch into the 4th chain. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then this is 4. So slip stitch. Here we have our 2nd finger. And then once again, you're going to find a stitch just off to the side. So yarn over and slip stitch. And then just like before, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to slip stitch into the 4th chain. So 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th. You're just going to slip stitch. And now you just cut your yarn. Go back into where you inserted your yarn for the 3rd finger and just pull it through there. So probably wasn't smart of me to cut it before slip stitching it through, but that should be how it looks. 1, 2, 3 fingers. So I'm going to redo this in the brown yarn. You do it in brown yarn, and be sure to weave in your ends when you're done. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll meet you back. And that's it. That's your completed Mort doll. So thank you for watching the tutorials. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. I hope you enjoy your doll. Thank you for watching.